How did a company with no experience in video games
operating and handling various Sony products
manage to dominate the console world after being insulted by the Japanese gaming giant Nintendo?
Developed by Philips, not Sony.
And is it really better than Xbox?
Quiet.
In this video, we delve into the history of the legendary PlayStation. So grab your snack and let's get started. In the late 1980s, Nintendo was the undisputed king of video games. Super Mario, The Legend of Zelda, Donkey Kong, franchises that weren't just popular. They defined a generation. But even kings crave more power. Nintendo was preparing for a bold move to abandon cartridges and embrace the future. CD-ROM technology, more space, full motion video, a gateway to the next level of gaming. But they couldn't do it alone. That's when Sony stepped in. Sony, a powerhouse in electronics, had never touched the gaming world. But they saw potential and profits. Nintendo needed a tech partner. Sony needed a way in. Together, they formed an alliance. The plan: Sony would develop a CD-ROM for the Super Nintendo. It would be called the Super Nintendo PlayStation, a hybrid device that merged Nintendo's games with Sony's media technology. Prototypes were built. The name was agreed upon. A public announcement was set for 1991 at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. But then, Nintendo pulled the trigger. On the very morning Sony was preparing to take the stage, Nintendo dropped a bombshell. They had signed a new deal, not with Sony, but with Philips, their competitor, a European rival, and they announced it live to the world without warning Sony. Sony had been stabbed in the back, in front of the entire world, and that was the spark. Ken Kutaragi, a quiet but brilliant engineer at Sony, had been the mastermind behind the original collaboration. He had a vision, and when Nintendo pulled out, he made a decision that would reshape gaming history. If they don't want to use our technology, we'll use it ourselves. Sony didn't walk away, they doubled down. Kutaragi assembled a rogue team inside Sony, low budget, no support, but full of determination. They weren't building a CD-ROM anymore, they were building a new console, a console that would take Nintendo head on. It would be called the PlayStation. In December 1994, the first PlayStation launched in Japan. The response was overwhelming. Over 100,000 units sold on the first day alone. Then came the real turning point. In 1995, at the Electronic Entertainment Expo in Los Angeles, Sega had just announced its new console, the Sega Saturn, with a launch price of $399. Sony's response was simple and devastating. During their press event, Sony executive Steve Race walked up to the microphone, paused, and said, "Just one number."
$299.
Sony had just undercut Sega by $100, and the audience knew exactly what that meant: a knockout punch. American launch later that year solidified its momentum, with games like Ridge Racer, Tekken, and later Crash Bandicoot, Metal Gear Solid, and Final Fantasy VII. PlayStation established itself as more than a console. It became a cultural force. It appealed not just to kids, but to teenagers, college students, and even adults. Sony's marketing embraced this shift with edgy slogans and attitude-driven campaigns like, "Live in your world, play in ours." The PlayStation wasn't a toy, it was a lifestyle. By the late 90s, Sony had done the impossible. The original PlayStation had sold over 100 million units, ending Nintendo's monopoly and leaving Sega gasping for air. But Sony wasn't finished. They were preparing something far more ambitious, a console so advanced, so powerful, it was pitched as a supercomputer in disguise. In March 2000, the world met the PlayStation 2.
I'm right here for the PlayStation 2, the best entertainment system to hit it.
The PlayStation 2 wasn't just about games. It was a leap in how people interacted with technology at home. At a time when DVD players were still expensive luxury items, the PS2 offered one built in. This move was genius. It made the console more appealing to parents, families, and film lovers. Many people bought the PlayStation 2 just to watch movies and ended up becoming gamers by accident. It also boasted backward compatibility, meaning you could play all your original PlayStation games on it. For the first time in console history, loyalty actually meant something. The PlayStation 2 was a beast under the hood. It featured the Emotion Engine, a chip designed to deliver cinematic graphics and smooth 3D performance. At the time, it was the most complex and powerful piece of hardware in the gaming world. From Grand Theft Auto San Andreas to Shadow of the Colossus, Metal Gear Solid 2, and God of War, the PlayStation 2 became a platform for masterpieces. By 2001, Sega had officially exited the console business. The Dreamcast, once a promising contender, couldn't compete. Nintendo's GameCube tried to hold its ground, and newcomer Microsoft entered the scene with the Xbox. But neither could match Sony's momentum. It sold over 155 million units, making it the best-selling console of all time.
Tomorrow's PlayStation 3 launch. It marks a new era in gaming.
The year is 2006. Sony had just come off the overwhelming success of the PlayStation 2, the undisputed king of gaming. Now, they were ready to push into the future with the PlayStation 3, a high-powered machine built for the HD era. But this time, things were different. Before we continue, make sure to click the like button and subscribe to our channel. The PS3 was bold, almost too bold, with features like a Blu-ray drive, cell processor, HDMI support, and even Linux compatibility. The console was more like a futuristic computer than a gaming system. But with all that power came a problem: price. Sony announced the PS3 would launch at $499 for the base version and $599 for the premium one. Gamers were stunned, memes exploded. Even Sony's own executives couldn't keep the reaction straight. Microsoft, still fresh from its original Xbox release, in 2005 they launched the Xbox 360, a year before Sony's PS3, and at a lower price. The 360 had strong developer support, better online infrastructure, and smoother HD graphics out of the gate. More importantly, Xbox Live became the gold standard for multiplayer gaming. Games like Halo 3, Gears of War, and Call of Duty 4 were exploding, and PlayStation was struggling to catch up. For the first time in a decade, Sony looked vulnerable. When the PS3 launched, it faced shortages, high prices, and a weak lineup of games. Developers had trouble working with the cell processor, and Sony's online system was no match for Xbox Live. Even longtime fans were jumping ship. But Sony listened. They dropped the price and redesigned the console into the PlayStation 3 Slim. By 2013, it had clawed back the lead in global sales. It had survived, but it was bruised. The year was 2013, and the wounds of the PlayStation 3 era were still fresh. Sony had survived, but they knew the next battle would be critical. This time, they didn't aim to revolutionize the living room. They wanted to win back gamers. And they did, with the PlayStation 4. The PlayStation 4 was a machine built on one core philosophy: make a powerful, affordable console that developers love and gamers trust. No confusing architecture, no overpriced hardware, just great games, a clean interface, and a competitive $399 launch price. And it worked. Sony's messaging was clear and brutally effective, while Microsoft stumbled with its Xbox One reveal, emphasizing TV features, Kinect sensors, and always online DRM. Sony came out swinging. In one iconic moment, Sony released a 22-second video titled, "How to Share Games on PS4." It simply showed one guy handing a disc to another. That clip destroyed Microsoft's credibility in one punch. Sony had just landed the cleanest burn in console war history. With a share button built into the controller, players could instantly capture screenshots, share gameplay clips, or even stream live. It turned casual players into content creators and PlayStation into a global stage. By the end of its life cycle, the PlayStation 4 sold over 117 million units. It had outpaced the Xbox One by a massive margin and re-established Sony as the king of the gaming world. Let's move to 2020. And the world was, well, a mess. COVID-19 had shut down factories, ports, offices, and the world's supply chains were in meltdown. But Sony wasn't hitting pause. After the massive success of the PS4, expectations were sky high. Gamers wanted power, they wanted speed, they wanted something next generation. And that's what they got. Kind of. Announced in a virtual showcase, with sleek white curves and futuristic energy, the PlayStation 5 was a visual and technological leap forward. It was unlike anything before. Games loaded in seconds, worlds were seamless. The DualSense controller became a talking point in itself, a genuinely immersive upgrade from anything on the market. The hype was massive, and the demand was unreal. But there was a problem.
The PlayStation 5 is the fastest-selling game console in North America. So why the f*** does no one have one?
The PlayStation 5 was nearly impossible to get. Bots, scalpers, chip shortages, you name it. People were camping online for months just to try and get one. Walmart, Best Buy, Amazon, they crashed the moment restocks went live. Even a year after release, the PS5 was still a rare sight in stores. It became a symbol of tech chaos, a next-gen dream stuck in a very broken reality. It was a weird time. eBay listings went for $800, $1,000, even $1,500 at one point. Scalping became a business, and Sony struggled to keep up. But even through all that chaos, the PlayStation 5 was winning. As of 2024, the PlayStation 5 had sold over 50 million units, and it was still climbing. Games were pushing boundaries, and Sony had proven that even in chaos, they could deliver the future. From underground experiments to global domination, the PlayStation saga is one of innovation, failure, redemption, and pure gaming magic. And it's far from over. This was the story of PlayStation, and that was the Irregular show. This video took me all my vacation to make, so please click the like button to support the channel and subscribe for more awesome stories. Tell me in the comments which PlayStation is the best. Thank you for your time. See you later.